This year's NBA postseason has been a wild ride filled with runs being made and storylines ensuing that I don't think anybody even thought was possible. For pretty much every team that makes it to this point in the season, the stars are the ones that tend to shine the brightest, but you also typically get a few guys who break out on the big stage and outperform all expectations put on them, and that's exactly what we'll be discussing in today's video. Today we'll be discussing the 5 role players from this year's playoffs that played their way into earning a huge bag in the next contract that they get by breaking out in a big way in these series. These are the guys who proved that they could be ready for a bigger role in the future and made a name for themselves in the NBA world. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first role player we'll be discussing that played his way into some big money next contract is Caleb Martin of the Miami Heat. I made an entire video about Caleb Martin a few days ago because his story really is pretty crazy, but essentially he went from being an undrafted player with zero expectations of even sticking in the league to being on the brink of being named the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. Martin didn't even average 10 points per game in the regular season, but in this year's playoffs, he's scored in double figures in all but 4 games. He's scored 20 or more points 4 times, including each of the last 2 games played against the Celtics. He's been a staple of the Heat's crunch time lineup. He's hit countless big time shots down the stretch, and his defense has also been exceptional. He is not afraid of the moment at all, and his teammates trust him to make things happen when the opportunity presents itself. He averaged 19 points per game against the Celtics in the conference finals series. He's shooting 44% from 3 in the playoffs as a whole, and for the Miami Heat team that was desperate for playmakers to step up after Tyler Hero went down with an injury, Martin answered that call. He does still have 2 more years left on his current contract, making about $7 million per season, but I don't have any doubt that he'll be offered far more when this contract expires. The next role player up on this list is actually Martin's teammate Gabe Vincent, also of the Miami Heat. 2 off-seasons ago, the Miami Heat brought in Kyle Lowry in hopes of him taking their starting point guard position by the horns and to take the team to another level. Instead, it is another undrafted gem, Gabe Vincent, commanding the starting point guard spot and doing a damn good job of it too. Gabe Vincent has been nothing short of spectacular in his role throughout this run, and his shooting has really unlocked the Heat's offense and taken it to another level. This postseason, he too has 4 games where he's scored 20 or more points. He's not shy at all when it comes to looking for his shot, and he's been producing at a rate that far exceeds what he was doing in the regular season. He's shooting 39% from 3 in the playoffs as a whole. In the series against the Celtics, he averaged about 16 points on some blisteringly hot shooting splits, and he's made a name for himself when the lights got brightest. Vincent has been playing on a minimum contract this year, paying less than $2 million, and is about to hit free agency, so when he enters negotiations, he's definitely going to be reasonably demanding a lot more than that for his services now. The next role player who played his way into a huge next contract this postseason is Austin Reaves of the Los Angeles Lakers. In 2 seasons with the Lakers, Reaves has played a plethora of different roles, and wherever the Lakers have put him, or whatever they have asked of him, he's done it at a high level. Early on, he was a bench piece being used primarily as a 3-and-D player, giving them good minutes here and there, but wasn't necessarily in a consistent role. Eventually, this season, he got to a point where he established himself as one of their best wing players overall. He worked his way into the starting lineup to close the season out, and that momentum fully carried over into the playoffs, where he was one of the team's best primary playmakers alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Reaves is a very crafty player with the ball in his hands, who operates well in the pick and roll. He has a smooth mid-range game where he comfortably pulls up for jumpers off the dribble, and this year in particular, he started to show an advanced understanding of how to maneuver in the paint and draw fouls to get to the free throw line regularly. He had 7 games this postseason where he scored 20 or more points. He shot 44% from 3 on the postseason as a whole, and defensively, he proved that that he could do more than just hold his own on the opposing team's best guards. He's going to be a free agent this summer, and there has been talk of him demanding a contract similar to Jordan Poole, who is being paid $32 million annually, and while Reaves may not end up getting quite that much money, he's definitely going to get a huge upgrade from what his current contract is paying him, which was around $1.5 million. The next role player who earned himself a big bag in free agency this postseason is Bruce Brown of the Denver Nuggets. Bruce Brown has been an interesting utility player in the league for a few years now, but when his time in Brooklyn was up and he entered free agency last summer, he strangely didn't attract that many offers. The Nuggets happily brought him in on a deal paying him $7 million this season, and they gave him a player option for next year, and Brown will likely be opting out of that player option to explore his options that will likely include a big pay raise. Brown is such a good defender, and for a 6'4" guard, he's actually impressively versatile, being able to defend multiple positions. He's been the Nuggets' sixth man throughout their entire run to the NBA Finals, and plays the minutes of a starter regularly. He's an outstanding cutter off the ball who can get some easy looks when the defense falls asleep. He's a capable shooter, albeit on low volume of attempts from deep, and he's a much improved driver off the dribble to put pressure on the defense as a scorer. To put it simply, he's the kind of role player that any contending team should love to have in their rotation, and this offseason, there will definitely be a bigger market for him than there was last offseason. And finally, the last role player that earned themselves a big-time pay increase in free agency is an underrated inclusion, but it's Jock Landale of the Phoenix Suns. Landale was a backup center for the Suns this year who, early on in the playoffs, wasn't even playing. However, when Bismack Biyombo got injured, Landale got his chance in the postseason, and he took those backup minutes and made a name for himself. Additionally, DeAndre Ayton was struggling mightily in their series against the Nuggets, so Landale even closed a few games over him in that series, because when he subbed in, his energy was infectious on both ends. Landale is a terrific defender of the basketball and rebounder of the basketball on both the offensive and defensive glass. He doesn't give up on the play no matter what. He's a sound defender and rim protector, and even in the Suns' final two games, when the team got blown out by the Nuggets, Landale's minutes in those games actually outscored the Nuggets both times. He's about to be a free agent again this summer after being signed on a minimum deal for this past year, and I think it's safe to say that he'll get more than a minimum contract this summer to be a backup center for a team in need of one, because he's earned that right. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what kind of contracts you think these players have earned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.